you can only feel for Hillary in the agony she must be going through, having been so confident of winning and then have it so roughly taken away from her. But my sympathy is tempered. But the fact of the matter is that now she is running around telling people, and Bill is telling people, that Comey is to blame, and that's what the Democratic Party has settled on. If only Comey had not said that he was reopening the investigation, her momentum would have swelled and all of that. But that's a fundamental and an important misreading of what happened in the election. If you believe that Hillary's success or failure and Trump's electability hinged on the scandal and on the perceptions of the email in the Clinton Foundation, rather than on Trump's positive momentum and surge, you'd be doing a real disservice to the country. The fact of the matter is that the email issue and the Clinton Foundation issue had a great deal to do with crippling Hillary in the spring and the summer and the early fall. But in the actual weeks before the election, when Trump really had to put on his surge, it had very little to do with it. When Comey announced he was reopening the investigation, there was no great spike in the polls. And when Comey announced there was nothing there was no big counter spike in the polls. The change in the polling took place after the October 22nd speech that Trump gave in Gettysburg. Now, he began the speech by countering the women who'd accused him of groping, and that's, of course, what the media covered. But then he followed with a half-hour telepromptered substantive speech outlining his agenda for the first 100 days, which is very similar to what he's saying he'll do now after the election in the first 100 days. That kept Donald on message. I think he really learned the message internally when he delivered it in that speech. It's kind of how his mind works. And I think then, and every day after that, he stayed right on message, hitting those points again and again. And as he did that, the gap in the ABC poll, which was the most pro-Hillary poll, closed from Hillary ahead by 12 to Hillary ahead by 2 between that weekend and the following Friday, 6 days later. Then on Friday, with Trump only 2 behind, Comey made his first announcement about reopening the investigation. And as I said, it had almost no impact. The closure and the polling continued all the way through that last week. And when Comey announced 4 days before Election Day that there was nothing there was no spike for Hillary. The thing is that the Trump momentum was entirely in the northern industrial states. It was in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Indiana. And in those states, he surged forward in the last 4 or 5 days. That's why in Florida, Obama won Florida by 1 point and Trump won Florida by 1 point. Not a big shift. In North Carolina, there was not a big shift. But in Ohio, Obama won that by 3.5 points, and Trump won it by more than 10. And in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota, those swings were increasingly evident. And on Election Day, it just washed away the Democratic Party. That was because Trump was connecting to the blue-collar, high school-educated voter, the new constituency of the Republican Party, the old constituency of the Democratic Party, who they let down. And you have to keep your eye on that, because that's what politics in the Trump era is going to be all about. And in saying it's Comey and it's her emails, you know, you go back to what Bernie Sanders said, I don't give a damn about your emails. But essentially, we do as a national security thing, and we should as a country, and I'm not suggesting she should be let off. But to misunderstand the outcome of the election as related to Hillary's ethical issues would be a great disservice to those tens of millions of voters who turned out and voted for Trump because of their need for economic change. Thanks for watching.